Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Receiving Noor weekly Quran class. We are studying Surah 14 and this is part 11, our 11th meeting with Dr. Yamina. She'll be leading us in tonight's study as usual, and we are as usual welcome to join in with comments or questions. You can bring them in as appropriate during the discourse, or you can wait till the end in the Q&A session. We also always encourage you to share, even if you don't have a question, if you can share something that especially touched you or especially you felt spoke to you in tonight's session. So with that, I will turn to Sister Yamina. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So as Isra just reminded us, we stopped at ayah 45 of Surah Ibrahim, which is the 14th chapter in the Quran. When we were told you inhabited the same places as those who had wronged themselves before you, which means you lived on the same earth and in basically the same human environment as those earlier generation who preceded you. And we know that since they are not here, they passed away. So from one perspective, I wanted us to also read this verse 45 as a reminder that everything is passing, among other reminders. And in ayah 46, we're told they concocted their plots, but even if their plots had been able to move mountains, God had the answer. استعيذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم وقد مكروا مكرهم وعند الله مكرهم وإن كان مكرهم لتزول منه الجبال. Meaning, however strong their plots may seem to be, because in fact they are not, they are only strong to the one who believes them to be strong, to gives them, because we infuse them with the power, because the power to create anything at the end of the day belongs to God alone. And so even when their plots seem very strong, so strong that they can move mountains, at the end of the day, they will not be able to prevail because everything will perish except his face. كل شيء حالك إلا وجهه. And this, they concocted their plots. وَمَا مَكَرُوا مَكْرَهُمْ is repeated in the Quran. It's literally they devised their devising, or they plotted their plots. Has been usually understood as referring to their shirki belief in the existence of other powers side by side with God. And we've seen this term makr before in Surah Al-Ra'd, Surah 13, ayah 33, in the context of shirk. So the commentators didn't come up with this understanding as their plotting being related to shirk from their own imagination. They came up with that conclusion because of the way this expression is used in different places in the Quran. So in Surah Al-Ra'd, for instance, I'm referring to it because we already studied Surah Al-Ra'd together. In ayah 33, we're told, is he who stands over every soul, seeing everything it does? Meaning he who has every living being in his care, dealing with each according to what it needs, meaning God, and yet they ascribe partners to God. So he stands over every soul taking care of everything it needs, yet they ascribe partners to God. Say, name them, name these things that you think have some powers or create anything other than God. Or would you inform him of anything on earth that he does not know? Or do you say this in the outward appearance of saying words? But the plotting of those who disbelieve, and this plotting here is makr, seems good to them. And so they are turned away from the path, from the straight path of God, and no one can guide those who God leaves to stray. So clearly, plotting is anything here. The plotting of the disbelievers is anything that is away from the path of God. And the path of God is the path of justice, is the path of generosity, is the path of mercy and compassion. Anything away from that is described as concocting plots. And they are the result of shirk. So overall, all schemes and plots that people plot are the result of shirky beliefs, deviations from the straight path of God, of goodness, of justice. And in this ayah, we're reminded that God is both aware of their plots and schemes and that he is all powerful over them. In وَقَدْ مَكَرُوا مَكْرَهُمْ وَعِنْدَ اللَّهِ مَكْرُهُمْ وَإِنْ كَانَ مَكْرُهُمْ لِتَزُولَ بِهِ الْجِبَالُ. And so, however great, however powerful their plots and schemes may seem, the result is always in God's control. And he shall provide all conspirators with deserved retribution. And the whole thing is starting from 44, if you remember, last week, was about warning us that on the day of judgment, there will be, everyone will have to answer for what they did here on earth. So it means that God can also diffuse and expel their tricks or their plots or their schemes so that they fall back onto them. And at any rate, the message is, I understand the message is a very relieving message, because sometimes it does seem overwhelming that some evil people with wicked intentions are so powerful and so strong, and you feel very powerless and overwhelmed. And the message here is, do not worry, because such schemes and plots and plans and conspiracies will have no effect on you, even if their strategies are so strong that they can remove mountains. They have no effect in two senses. Either they have no effect at all, or even if they have an effect, it is willed by God. It is part of my journey here, our journey here on earth, because it can only touch us or affect us by God's will. So if it affects me in any way, it is part of my journey here on earth. So instead of being stuck in the relationship with the plotters or the wrongdoers or the oppressors, there is also the other aspect of it, which is that I am put in that situation by the will of God, as you remember in Surah Yusuf alayhi salam. So he was never affected by the evil of his brothers or what happened later on to him when he was put in prison for many years. And so, yes, those people did wrong, and they were oppressors and transgressors. But as far as Yusuf alayhi salam was concerned, because he was not concerned about their evil, he responded to whatever was happening to him as willed by God, created by God, and therefore willed by God for a purpose, for a meaning, for something good eventually. So he became a muhsin. First, he lived in the presence of the divine. Second, because of that, he was given the wisdom to understand the meaning of events, and so he could benefit himself in this world and the next, and he benefited all the people around him at the same time. So the message is, no matter how powerful and forceful the transgressors, the oppressors may be, they will eventually perish, and the future belongs to the God conscious only. Therefore, in Ayah 47, we are told, do not think that God will fail to fulfill his promise to his messengers. Truly, God is almighty, an avenger of evil, or some translated it as an exactor of retribution. فلا تحسبن الله مخلف وعده رسله إن الله عزيز ذو انتقام. ذو انتقام has been literally it's the avenger of evil, but it has also been translated as the exactor of retribution, which is equally good. Which means that when we see, or if we see that the oppressors have got a respite, it seems like they're doing whatever they want and nothing is happening to them. It is not because of God's overlooking their evil actions, and it is not because God doesn't keep his promise, but rather we are told in Ayah 47, it is God's will that all accounts will be settled and cleared on the day of judgment, when justice will be finally established and no one will be wronged. So in this world, there is some relative justice, and it is seen by the muhsins, those who are conscious of God and live intentionally and are aware of the meaning of the signs. But generally speaking, it is on the day of judgment that justice will be totally, clearly established for everyone to see, even the wrongdoers themselves. And so right now, the respite given to the oppressors is based on wisdom. And it is not because of negligence or God going back on his promise. And the muhsins only can know the wisdom, because the wisdom is given to the muhsins. But even when we don't know the wisdom, we can't surrender. We can surrender and trust God, make tawakkul that I don't know, just because I don't know the wisdom doesn't mean that there is no wisdom, no meaning, no purpose in what's happening. And the more we surrender and the more we trust, the more we are likely to start living with ihsan, and then we will be imparted with that wisdom that will change our way of looking at everything. And it's also, this ayah is also a warning not to delude ourselves. So the first reading, we always do this. There are two ways of reading every ayah, as referring to the transgressors, the oppressors, the evildoers out there. And the second reading is, of course, as pertaining to myself. There is a part of me that may be inclined to doing small little transgressions. And sometimes it looks small, but we don't know what the outcome, the consequences could be in other people's lives. So it's also a warning not to delude ourselves because of the delay of punishment. And so take life more seriously. Because after all, we only live this one worldly life. No one, we don't know of anyone who came back to the world. So it's not worth taking any risk. This is something very, very important. That's why it's repeated so much in the Quran, because it's so important, because we don't see immediate punishment as a consequence to our actions and beliefs. We tend to forget in two ways. We tend to forget it when it comes to ourselves, and we tend to lament it and complain about it when it comes to others, especially when the evil, the harm done is so big. I mean, now with all the modern weaponry and everything, it's just mind-boggling how can people use those weapons against other human beings. Astaghfirullah. And when you think about that, it becomes very depressing. But when we remember that this world is passing, then we can breathe. There is a relief. Alhamdulillah that this world is passing. Alhamdulillah that death is haqq. Alhamdulillah al-mawtu haqq. Alhamdulillah that akhirah is haqq. That everyone will be brought back to God and will have to answer for whatever they've done here. So, as I was saying, this is what I tell myself. It's not worth taking any risk. Stop and remember. That's why remembering is so important. Remember that this worldly life is very short and there is a lot at stake. And also, each time there is a warning in the Quran. It's very interesting. Each time we are given again and again reminded of all the evidences for believing in God here and now, and therefore having that yaqeen, that certainty of akhirah, of the hereafter, so that our hearts are at peace, they are satisfied with the truth and convinced here and now. And so that we are not tempted with vain things, because it's very easy to be tempted. Vain things means anything that is not related to akhirah, anything that will end up here. Sometimes we work for things so hard, but there is no connection to akhirah, and you will realize that you spent maybe a decade of your life for no true purpose. I think that's really, really scary. And that day may seem very far, but as we know, kullu atin qareeb, anything that will happen is close. Because at the end of the day, whether it's happening, whether we die after 20 years or 50 years or even 100 years, once it's over, and it becomes like nothing. And that's why we're reminded in Ayah 44 that we read last week, hence warn people of the day when punishment will come to them. And when those who did wrong will exclaim, "O our Rabb, our sustainer, give us a little more time, and we shall respond to your call and follow the messengers." So there will be a day when people will regret the way they live their life, and they will say, just give us a little more time, so we will follow your call, and follow the messengers. Which means, do it now. Let's follow the call. And it's not just follow blindly. No, stop, think about it. It's worth investigating. And if there is any truth about it, then it's worth leaving everything behind and make it our sole and main purpose, and everything else should be a means to support this purpose, which is to prepare for akhirah, to live here and now with that consciousness, inshallah. And so in Ayah 44, the messenger, the Prophet ﷺ, is told to warn the people of that day before it is too late. And one of the best reminder is that everything is passing. And so we are, that's why the Prophet ﷺ, we are told there was no meeting where he would not mention death. Because we forget that we are bound to die, as we are told in the Quran in few places, but one of them is in Surah Al-Anbiya, Surah 21, Ayah 35. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Every human being is bound to taste death. It's nice that the word used is actually ذائقة, to taste. So there is the last death, and there is the death that we are experiencing on a daily level, daily basis. And when we live in ghafla, that separation, that it seems like we are getting closer to death, is scary. But when we live with ihsan, with iman and ihsan, with belief and with consciousness intentionally in the presence of God, and we see the wajhullah, we see the face of God in everything, we see the aspect of everything that reflects the divine attributes, then actually tasting death here and now is something beautiful. It tastes good. There is dhawq in it. There is something tasty. And it's amazing how, again and again, I would repeat this because it's very important, we are reminded, whenever we are reminded of the last day, we are also provided with evidences and signs as to who God is as our Rabb, subhanallah. So in this Surah Al-Anbiya, just before saying that every soul is bound to taste death, we are told, starting from Ayah 30, don't those who deny, أَلَمْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, do not those who deny see that the heavens and the earth were once one single entity, which then parted asunder, and that we made, and don't they see that we made out of water every living thing? Will they not then begin to believe? So you see, before he says that, again, subhanallah, out of compassion, out of mercy, out of rahmah, it's like there is this untiring reminder. And it is not, you believe in God, come on. No. Don't you see, can't you see around you? Look at the signs around you. Everything is pointing to that reality, to that truth. So it is an invitation to investigate the world, to have that certainty about God and about Akhirah. And so the next area is, and don't they see, do they not see that we have set up firm mountains on earth, lest it sway with them? And don't they see that we have appointed thereon broad paths so that they might find their way? And don't they see that we have set up the sky as a canopy well secured? And yet they stubbornly turn away from all the signs, and the signs of this creation, it means. They still do not consider the signs around them. Remember, the signs is something very, very important. And it is He who has created the night and the day and the sun and the moon, and all of them are floating, all of them, He created them floating through space. And we never have granted life everlasting to any mortal. There is no, look in all history, if you like, no one has ever been immortality, has ever been given, granted immortality. But do they perchance hope that although you must die, they will live forever? Of course, no one says, I will live forever. However, we may act as though we were living forever. That's the catch. That's where we need to catch ourselves. That's why living intentionally is very important. And that's why ghafla is so scary, because we may be living as though we were living forever, and without even realizing it. And then we are told every human being is bound to taste death, and we test you all through the bad and the good things of life by way of trial, and unto us you all must return. This is repeated in other parts of the Quran as well. And this return to God is also something that's emphasized in the Quran. So it's not only you die, no, you die and you will return to God. And that's also, that repetition itself is a sign of the importance of the subject. But the fact that we are returning to God, it makes it even more significant. And we are told again and again that the believers know that they are returning to God. They are, right now, here in this life, they are aware of that. That's what one of the consequences of belief. If you know God, you know that you are coming from there and going back to Him, returning to God. And so in Surah Al-Baqarah, in Ayah 45, we are told, and seek help in steadfast patience and prayer. And this indeed is a hard thing for all except the humble in spirit, who know with certainty that they shall meet their sustainer, their Rabb, and unto Him they shall return. So the humble, they know with certainty that they will meet their sustainer and that they will return to Him. And in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Surah 23, Ayah 57 to 60, we are told, truly, they who stand in reverent awe of their sustainer, of their Rabb, and who believe in their Rabb's ayat, and who do not ascribe shirk to their Rabb, and who give whatever they have to give with their hearts trembling at the thought that under the sustainer they must return. وَقُلُوبُهُمْ وَجِلَةٌ أَنَّهُمْ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ رَاجِعُونَ. The fact that they know, and you can see that this is not something knowing in the head. It's not information. It moves the heart. The heart is moved, trembles at the very thought that they are returning, they must return to the sustainer. And so it affects how they live their life here and now. So to know that they are, or when we know that we are returning to God, it will affect how we live here and now. Because it's not like we will return to God one day, or meanwhile, we know the date. Okay, meanwhile, let's do whatever we want and then I'll get ready. It's not like that. We don't know when or where we will die. So every time we need to be ready, because anytime we may be called. In an hour time, can we be sure that in an hour time we will be here? No, anything can happen anytime. وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ, as we are told in Surah Luqman, Surah 31, Ayah 34. Actually, the whole passage, the last two ayat of Surah Luqman are very moving, full of compassion. The last two ayat are 33 and 34. We are told, O people, be conscious of your sustainer and stand in awe of the day on which no parent will be of any avail to his child, nor a child will be in the least avail to his parent. Truly, God's promise of resurrection is true indeed. Let not then the life of this world delude you, and let not your own deceptive thoughts about God delude you. Truly, with God alone rests the knowledge of when the last hour will come, and He it is who sends down rain, and He alone knows what is in the wombs, whereas no one knows what he will reap tomorrow. and no one knows in what land he will die. Truly, only God is all-knowing, all-aware. It's very humbling. And when we keep this in mind, then we cannot, slack and say, okay, one day I will take it seriously. There is no such possibility. And actually, that's only in the beginning, because once we start living with that knowing, that certainty starts, and the belief and certainty starts to increase. And the more we live with ihsan, the more we enjoy it, because it makes life very meaningful, very purposeful, and it's very exciting for the human soul. It may not be exciting for the ego, but it's very soothing, and it expands the world. It's very peace-giving and exciting in terms of the human soul. It gives meaning to everything. And so that's why this warning about the last day is repeated, so that we do not have regrets on that awesome day when it will be too late. In Surah Maryam, if you remember, we did study Surah Maryam together. Ayah 39 and 40, we are told, hence warn them of the coming of the day of regrets. That day is for most people the day of regrets. And we don't want it to be the day of our regrets, inshallah. So warn them of the coming of the day of regrets, when everything will have been decided. For as yet they are heedless and they do not believe. Behold, we alone, God is saying, we alone shall remain after the earth, and all who live on it have passed away. And unto us all will have been brought back. So no need to make any plans for anything if God is not included in the plan, because at the end of the day, everything shall perish except him. Only God will remain after the earth, after everything in the earth have passed away. So we will all die, meaning we will all die, and we will return to our Maker on the day of requital. وَهُوَ خَلَقَكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. And it's, if we investigate how we are created now, how we are being sustained in life right now, we will understand who our creator is, who our sustainer is, and then we will have no doubt that we are in a state of returning to him. وَهُوَ خَلَقَكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. It is he who has created you in the first instance, and therefore unto him you are brought back. So what matters is that there will be requital. It's not like, okay, we'll die, we will go back to God, and then, okay, so, no. That day is a day of, why is it called the day of regret? Because there will be requital. We will be asked to answer for whatever we believed and did in this world. And so all these ayats, all these verses, describe the state of the deniers who committed crimes, like in Ayah 51. I'm not going there, but in Ayah 51 of Surah Ibrahim, we are told, and all will be judged on that day, so that God may requite every soul for all that it earned. Truly, God is swift in reckoning. So there is no running away. We are accountable, and we are responsible for whatever we're doing. And so we better check everything and prepare ourselves, not only by investigating and checking our beliefs and finding the truth and following the divine guidance, but also asking for forgiveness because we can only do so much. And we are told that God is the Almighty. So there's no way to, it's not like we're competing with Him or we can hide things from Him or something like that. We'd better be on a humble, knowing our position before our Rabb. That's I call humble is actually being aware of the truth, of the reality of who we are as ibad, as the beneficiaries of God's blessing and sustaining. And just in case there is that part of us that wants to say, what is it to me? Why should I? Well, God is Almighty and He is the avenger of evil. Allahu Azizul Dun Intiqam. And this name of God appears in other parts of the Quran, mostly in a context of warning us about the consequences of what we may do in this life, the consequences in the hereafter of what we may do in this life, which is, we are told in the Quran, for instance, denying God's ayat. And denying God's ayat have two levels, as we always say. There is one when we intentionally deny, and there is the one when we, because we have never made the choice, the intentional choice to live consciously, we end up denying or not heeding God's ayat. And we will live the consequences in this world and in the next. And the results of denying God's ayat is shirk. And the result of shirk is injustice, as we saw last week. So in Ali Imran, in Surah 3, ayah 4 to 6, we are told, behold, as for those who deny God's signs, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ, grievous suffering awaits them, for God is Almighty, an avenger of evil. Truly, nothing on earth or in the heavens is hidden from God. Because it seems like, okay, people don't know, then I'm fine. No, like I'll be accountable to God, whether people know or not, it doesn't matter. Actually, sometimes I may be hiding things from myself. That's why I need to make istighfar and ask God to clear everything, because there are things that maybe I'm not even aware of them myself, but it doesn't help. Truly, nothing on earth or in the heavens is hidden from God, because He it is who shapes you in the wombs as He wills. There is no deity except Him, the Almighty, the truly ones. Meaning, be careful, you can't hide anything, because He knows everything, since He is the one who created you in the womb first, and He shapes us. Not only He shaped us in the womb, but like as we grow, we are being shaped, and He is the one who shapes us as He wills. We have no say on how we look, even on how fast our nails grow, for instance. Subhanallah. And in Surah Al-Zumar, Surah 39, verses 29 to 31, we are told, God sets forth a parable. A man who has for his masters several partners. We've seen something similar in Surah Yusuf alayhi salam. So the parable is a man who has for his masters several partners, all of them at variance with one another, and a man depending wholly on one single person. Can these two be deemed equal as regards their condition? Of course, one believes in one God, the other one has to worry about so many things, so many variables. That's the state of living in shirk. Nay, all praise is due to God alone, but most of them do not understand this. Yet verily you are bound to die, and verily they too are bound to die. إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. Like there is no doubt about the fact that everyone will die. And then, actually, it's not even new. You will die. إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ. You are dying, because it's a process. And then, behold, on the day of resurrection, you all shall place your dispute before your Rabb, your sustainer. And who could be more wicked than he who invents lies about God and gives the lie to the truth as soon as it has been placed before him? It is not hell the proper abode for all who deny God, the truth? And hell will be the place where there is no God. It means all the goodness and the things you will love, they will have no source there. That's it. If that's what you believe, you get what you believe in. But he who brings the truth and he who wholeheartedly accepts it as true, it is they who are truly conscious of him, of God. And all that they have ever yearned for awaits them with their sustainer. Such will be the rewards of the muhsinin. And to this end, God will efface from their records the worst that they ever did, inshallah, and give them their rewards in accordance with the best of they were doing in life. So you don't get the average grade, you get the best grade. Alhamdulillah, lots of rahmah in this. Is not God enough for his servant? And yet they would frighten you with those things that they worship apart from God. But he whom God lets go astray can never find any guide, whereas he who guides aright can never be led astray. Is not God Almighty an avenger of evil? Alhamdulillah. And the next ayah is, again, subhanallah, again it goes back to the creation of the world, to the signs. And thus it is with most people. If you ask them, who is it that has created the heavens and the earth? This is the same ayah, the same text after who is not God an avenger of evil. It carries on, and thus it is with most people. If you ask them, who is it that has created the heavens and the earth? They will surely answer God. Say, have you then ever considered what it is that you invoke instead of God? If God wills that harm should befall me, could those powers you worship remove the harm inflicted by him? Or if he wills that grace, that mercy should alight on me, could they withhold his mercy? Say, God is enough for me. Hasbi Allah, alayhi tawakkalul mutawakkilun. In him alone, all who trust place their trust. Subhanallah, so beautiful. It starts with the evidences in the creation, and it ends with, again, attracting our attention so that we have no doubt. If we are willing to at least be open to the possibility and start taking it seriously, investigate, because what is at stake is so important that we should at least give it a chance, let's say, and check it out. If there is truly, if we, after we die, we are returning to God and there is a day of judgment, then we don't want to regret it. Then we'd better go and check if it is true. And if it is true, then we'd better live accordingly. And it's interesting, in Surah Al-Rum, for instance, the Ersala, the sending. I know that the sending usually is God sends the rain, God sends the winds, and God sends the prophets. But in this passage in Surah Al-Rum, it is used simultaneously at the same time in the same passage to attract our attention to the source, that both the winds and the water that they carry, the rain, as well as the prophets, all point to the same source, and both are sent as mercy. Therefore, the winds, the rain, the messengers, they are all messengers. The prophets are all messengers from beyond. And the ayat, the messenger that carry messages like the winds, they are there for us to confirm the claim of the second, to confirm the claim of the prophets and the messengers, and so that we know that this is indeed the truth. So in Surah Al-Rum, which is Surah 30, ayah 46 to 48, we are told, among his signs, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and among his signs, God's signs, is that he sends forth the winds that bear glad tidings, so that he might give you a taste of his mercy, and that ships might sail at his behest, at his permission, at his command, and that you might go about in quest of some of his blessings, and that you might have cause to be grateful. And indeed, before you, we sent forth messengers. Here, messengers is rusulan, like prophets, each one unto his, and the same words are used, we sent. Each one unto his own people, and they brought them all evidence of the truth. And of course, the evidence came first. The winds, for instance, the winds are sent, and the ships can sail because of that, and you can go and get some bounties like food and fish and other things, and so that you may be grateful. And that's exactly what the messengers are saying. So we sent for the messengers, each one unto his own people, and they brought them all evidence of the truth. And then we inflicted our retribution. And the same word is used here, فَانْتَقَمْنَا, which is God is al-muntaqim, the avenger of evil. And here we avenged all evil. We inflicted our retribution upon those who committed crimes, who did evil, for who we had willed it upon ourselves to help the believers. It carries on again. It is God who sends forth the winds, so that they raise a cloud, whereupon he spreads it over the skies as he wills, and causes it to break up so that you see rain issue from it. And as soon as he causes it to fall upon whomever he wills of his servants, lo, they rejoice. Can you see how winds, rain, ships, messengers, and then again winds, clouds, rain. And the same, because the same words are used, we send, you can see that they are all related, and that the ayat in the world, that's why they are so important, because without them, we would have no means to confirm the truth of the message that the prophets, the messengers, bring to us. And we would not be able to say, yes, this is indeed God speaking to us, this is divine guidance, and therefore live accordingly. And that's why they are so important. And I love this passage. I love Surah Al-Rum generally, but in this passage, because it's all in one single passage, we have the winds and the messengers all intertwined. Alhamdulillah. I'm looking at time. I don't know how much.
It's almost 9, Sister Yamina.
I was intending to finish until 50, so next week we will have time to wrap up to the last 2 ayat and the whole surah, inshallah. This intiqam, this avenging evil, God being the avenger of evil, is also used in Surah Al-Zukhruf, Surah 43, when Musa alayhi salam meets Pharaoh. Or we're told, yes, ask any of our messengers whom we have sent before you, meaning before Muhammad ﷺ, whether we have ever allowed that anything other than the most gracious, the most compassionate be worshipped. Like, have we ever allowed any shirk? It means all the messengers that came before Muhammad ﷺ, this ayah is telling us, they all emphasized that there is only one God, therefore you worship only one God. Thus, indeed, have we sent Musa with our signs, with our ayat, unto Pharaoh and his great ones. And he said, behold, I am a messenger of the sustainer of all the worlds. But as soon as he came before them, before Pharaoh and his people, with our signs, and here the signs in the case of Musa alayhi salam are what we call miracles. But in the Quran, remember, everything that happens in the world, what we call natural and what we call miracle, are all equally signs, ayat of God. So as soon as he came before them with our signs, they derided him. They started laughing at him. Although each sign that we showed them was weightier, weighed much than the preceding one. And each time we took them to task through suffering so that they might return to us. So even the suffering could be out of mercy to give you an opportunity, because sometimes when we are not humble and we don't understand from, we don't find God in the blessings, then we get hard times, so that we may stop and pause and reflect on the meaning and purpose of life. And so they were these signs we know from other passages, they were hardships. And every time they exclaimed, "Oh, you sorcerer!" So for them, they do not see him as a messenger from beyond, from God, but as a sorcerer. He's doing something what do you say? Something that we are not used to. So they said to him, "O sorcerer, pray for us to your sustainer on the strength of the covenant which he has made with you, not with us, for truly we shall now follow the right way. But whenever we remove the suffering from them, lo, they would break their words. They would break their word and go back to their old ways, because they are not really concerned with what's going on. They only want to get rid of the suffering." And we know this state of being. It's very familiar. And Pharaoh issued a call to his people saying, "O my people, does not the dominion over Egypt belong to me, since all these running waters flow at my feet? Can you not then see that I have dominion over everything? Am I not better than this contemptible man who can hardly make his meaning clear?" We know that Musa alayhi salam could not speak well. So he's saying, like, who is this man? He can't even speak well. I'm rich and powerful. And can you see the criteria has nothing to do with the content of the message he's bringing. And we have to be careful about our criteria and standards and beliefs in life. Like when we say something is haqq or not, is it truth or not, according to what? To the content or to our unchecked accepted beliefs about what is good and not, what is right and not. So he thinks this is a contemptible man who can hardly make his meaning clear. And then why have no golden armlets been bestowed on him? Like he doesn't have any gold or anything on him, which for them that time meant it's an evidence of high social status. For us now, it's not gold, but maybe it's the way you dress and how what brand it is and how expensive it is or whatever it is. Or why have no angels come together with him? This is Pharaoh saying. And then thus he misled his people and they obeyed him. Pharaoh misled his people and they obeyed him. For behold, they were depraved people. They were transgressors. They were not people of haqq. But when they continued to challenge us, we inflicted our retribution on them and drowned them all. And that's the وَانْتَقَمْنَا. We inflicted our retribution. We avenged the evil doer. So you can see that it's always in a context of someone is going overboard, has been given many opportunities, and still insists on following the same way, on ignoring the signs of God. And this is in this world, in this life. In the next, there will be no way of running away from the exacting of retribution. So we better make istighfar and live accordingly and prepare ourselves, inshallah. It's I had a friend one day was saying, oh, this is more important than like, if that time there was a project in NASA to send something, a satellite to the moon, and we were all studying physics and we were all following up the news. And she was saying, oh, this is much more, like it takes a lots of things and lots of money, lots of people to just send that little satellite to the moon for whatever, I don't know what the purpose is. But can you imagine to get ready for Akhirah? It's much more, how much more important than that? Subhanallah. And we don't spend any energy on it. The next ayah is 48. His promise, God's promise, will be fulfilled on the day we were told in 47. Do not think that he won't fulfill his promise. It means he will fulfill his promise, and he will fulfill it on the day when the earth is changed to other than the earth, as the heavens, and the heavens likewise. So not only the earth will be changed, but the heavens as well, the skies as well. And they shall appear before God, the overpowering one who holds absolute sway over all that exists. يوم تبدل الأرض غير الأرض والسماوات وبرزوا لله الواحد القهار. So this is an indication to the total cataclysmic change on the last day, which is alluded to, described in the Quran in many, many different parts of the Quran. And on that day, all the so-called natural phenomena, the natural world as we know now, the world as we know now, will totally be transformed. And the transformation will be beyond anything that we have ever experienced, anything that we can conceive or imagine. And that is why the Quranic descriptions, like in the next two verses, 49 and 50, they are allegorical, because we cannot conceive what will happen. We cannot imagine it. So what the descriptions in the Quran are allegorical, so we can imagine something, feel something, although we don't know exactly how it will be exactly. But What is important is how we feel about it here and now, because we're going to take action, inshallah, here and now. And this includes also the description of the human condition, good or bad, as we saw last week, when we didn't even know what they were seeing, but their hearts, their inner hearts were hollow, their eyes were straight, transfixed before them. So you can see that they are really, something very scary is happening to them, to the evildoers. And this changing, this transformation, because it's not like a change, we don't know really what's going on. It seems like it's a total transformation of the earth and the skies on the last day. It's been described in many verses of the Quran. On that day, for instance, we are told there will be a strong earthquake. The mountains will be displaced and they will move like cotton wool, and well, things like that. For instance, in Surah Taha, Surah 20, ayah 105 to 107, we are told, they will ask you about what will happen to the mountains when this world comes to an end. Say then, my Rabb, my sustainer, will scatter them far and wide. Can you imagine the mountains being scattered and leave the earth's level and bare, so that you will see no curve thereon and no ruggedness. And so the word actually, ينسفها ربي نسفا, يعني it's like it will be scattered, but how do you say نسفا? Like blowing, someone is like, God will blow it and it will scatter around. So in the eschatology of the Quran, descriptions of the end of the world, meaning, we understand that the world is not going to go away. It won't be annihilated. Because it still talks about the physical universe, but it will be transformed in new ways that we have no idea about. Like there will be still a world, but what kind of world, we don't know. That's why it says يُبَدِّلُ, when the day when the earth shall be changed into another earth, as shall be the heavens. So there will be something, but it will be totally different. Meaning that the destruction, after destruction, everything will be reborn, will be whatever, recreated, renewed on that day, and human beings will come back. There'll be resurrection, everyone will be, and after the judgment and everything will be settled, but in totally new conditions, which are totally different. They are different, but they have something that we will recognize. We have descriptions of paradise when we know that we will recognize the essence of things. But they will be different, but we'll recognize, oh, these are the things that we had in the worldly life. It will be much vaster than this world. We know also from the hadith. The blessings will be clear, but the punishment will also be more clearer, more severe, and there will be no way of deceiving, let's say, deluding ourselves. So on that day, everyone shall appear before God, the overpowering, the one who holds absolute sway over all that exists. We are told in ayah 48. Everyone will appear before God. Subhanallah. And this وَبَرَزُوا لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ, the name of God, Qahar, used to scare me. Like there is the names of Jamal, of beauty, and the names of Jalal, of glory. But more and more, the more you think about all the injustice and the harm done to innocent people in the world, the more this name of God, I find that there is lots of beauty within it, even though it is very, you can't not have awe before the name. And it's nice that it appears as Al-Wahid al-Qahhar. He's the only one who is Qahhar. He's the only one who is overpowering and who has absolute control over everything. And that's all I would say, Alhamdulillah. Because if anyone else, especially wicked, evil people, had a little bit of control over everything, we would be doomed. And it seems sometimes like what's going on in the world. So this name is really good news for me, that God alone is the only overpowering one and no one else is. It reminded me of when his sorcerers surrendered and believed in Musa alayhi salam. Pharaoh threatened them. He said, have you come to believe in him before I give you permission? And then he threatens to crucify them and cut them, like kill them, but in a horrible way. And their answer is, no harm can you do unto us. Truly, unto our Rabb we return. Behold, we desire that our sustainer forgive us our faults in return for our having been the first among the believers. So they believe in Musa when they see his signs, when he throws his stuff and it eats away, swallows all of their sorcery. So they know that this is not sorcery because they are sorcerers themselves. And they believe in God. Pharaoh threatens them. The answer is, like, what can you do to us? At the worst, you can kill us, and the hereafter is with God. You also will answer to God because you cannot run away from death. You also will be subjected to death. Meaning that, so Pharaoh's illusory dominion is very limited. He can't reach them beyond death, and he cannot even protect himself from death, since everyone is bound to taste death. Subhanallah. So you find that, yes, only God is Al-Wahid Al-Qahhar. He's the only one who has dominion over everything. In Surah Al-Ra'd, when we study Surah Al-Ra'd, in Ayah 16, we were told that God is the creator of all things, and therefore he is the overpowering one. Like, since he is the creator of every single thing, then he is the only one he is Al-Wahid Al-Qahhar, the only one who is overpowering and who has absolute control over all that exists. In Surah 38, Ayah 16:5, we are told, say, meaning to the Prophet, to Muhammad ﷺ, say, I am only a warner, and there is no deity, nothing worth worshipping except God, Al-Wahid Al-Qahhar. وَمَا مِنْ إِلَهٍ إِلَّا اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. The overpowering one who holds absolute sway over all that exists, the sustainer of the heavens and the earth and all that is between them, the Almighty, the All-Forgiving. In Surah Al-Ghafir, Surah 40, Ayah 16, we are told, the day when they shall come forth, meaning from death, with nothing of themselves hidden from God, with whom will sovereignty rest on that day? With God, the overpowering one who holds absolute sway over all that exists. لمن الملك اليوم لله الواحد القهار. On that day, every human being will be requited for whatever he has earned. No wrong will be done on that day. Truly, God is swift in reckoning. So, and it's in Surah Al-Ghafir, the forgiving. It's a name of God. So God is all forgiving, we are told. So it's not too late to repent, to make tawbah and ask for forgiveness, because after death, it will be too late. And so on that day, their excuse will be of no avail, we are told in Surah Al-Rum, Surah 30, Ayah 57. On that day, their excuse will be of no avail to those who are bent on evil doing, nor will they be allowed to make amends. On the day of judgment, it will be too late. In Surah Al-Zukhruf, Surah 43, Ayah 39, we are told, on that day, it will not profit you in the least to know that since you have sinned, you are now to share your suffering. On that day, it won't profit you to know it. You have to know it before, because on that day, it's like on the day of the exams, you can't say, can you give me time, I'll go and study, now that I've seen the questions. And actually, they give you the questions beforehand. We are given the questions with the answer. This is study and come to the exams. No, on the day of the exams, can I go out a little bit and work, study and come back? So no, it's the exam time. So Ayah 49 of Surah Ibrahim, we are told on that day, you will see the criminals yoked together in fetters, in chains. They will be yoked together and shackled in chains. وَتَرَى الْمُجْرِمِينَ يَوْمَئِذٍ مُقَرَّنِينَ فِي الْأَصْفَادِ. And this has been understood as a reference to the sinners, to the transgressors being linked together in fetters, where they might have physical chains, but it's also been understood as a metaphor to their own evil deeds and inclinations and false beliefs. And as a consequence, the utter despair which will be common to, and the regrets that the people will experience on that day of regrets. And it has been also understood as an allusion to the chain reaction which every evil deed is bound to set in motion. It doesn't stay there, because things affect each other. It's like a ripple effect. So this is important to understand it in this way, because that day, whether they will have physical chains or not, okay, it says so, it will be so. But how is this ayah related to us here and now? And that's why it has been understood that we can be shackled by our limiting false beliefs here and now. And that's important, because then we can get glimpses of the truth of this ayah here in the world, in our lives, and in the lives of the people around us. And so we can confirm the truth of this ayat. We can witness here and now how actually any belief that can be traced back to shirk, any belief that is contrary to the truth of Tawheed, and that God is Al-Wahid Al-Qahar, He is the only one who is overpowering over all things. He's the one who has control over all things. Then all things, all results, all goodness, if we believe that there is anything else other than God that has any power, then we will have to work hard to get control over that thing, to possess it, to fight with other people over it, to steal it with other people, to whatever people are all doing, all kinds of things in small scales and bigger scales. Why? Because they want to get all the results that they want, the power, the goodness, whatever it is. But whenever we look for those things outside of God, outside of the only source of goodness, then those beliefs will shackle us. And the more, it's like a lie brings a second lie, brings a third lie, and they limit us and they cause us much pain and suffering in this world and much more in the next. And so Ayah 49, where we were told that day, you will see the criminals yoked together in fetters, wearing, Ayah 50, wearing garments of black pitch, black tar, with their faces covered in fire. وترى المجرمين يومئذ مقرنين في الأصفاد سرابيلهم من قطران وتغشى وجوههم النار. So the garments, the clothes of black qataran, of black tar, let's say, and the fire veiling their faces, have also been understood as metaphors of the suffering and the horror which will envelop them, which they will experience, which the wrongdoers, the transgressors, will experience on the day of judgment. And it's interesting that their clothes, their garments, sarabiluhum, their shirts here are described as a source of great disaster for them. The clothes themselves are made of tar. That's something that is stinky and have a bad smell and is inflammable. And their faces are covered by flames of fire. So at least for the clothes, instead of normally clothes are worn to protect the body and for adornment, to look good. But here it's the opposite. Their clothes they stink, they're black, they're inflammable, burnable. So not only they don't protect them, but on the contrary, they harm the wearer. And this is a metaphor to what we do in this life. Things that clothes, because the clothes in the Quran are not only the clothes, but lots of, even the night is described as clothes. Anything that is supposed to bring you goodness and peace and protection, but actually they are harming themselves. So the intention in this world, in this world, the intention is to possess all these possessions and power and things to protect ourselves, to physically and non-physically, like status, and gain people's attract people's attention, respect, and everything. But when it is not done in the way of God, when it is and not done in a way that has results and bears fruits in the hereafter, it's not done in the way of God and in the name of God, two different things, because sometimes could be something good but doesn't have endless result, be goodness in the world, but sometimes not even goodness in the world. You can't steal property and gain status and power. So in this world, it may seem like it's protecting you, it is fulfilling those results that we are seeking. But in Akhirah, in this world, to the extent that we are conscious, to the extent that we look into its reality, we will see that it burns. and it is like clothes of tar. But in Akhirah, there is no way of not of running away from that reality. That kind of clothes, that kind of protection doesn't protect, but it's harmful, it's burnable, it's inflammable, it stinks, the color sucks, everything is very bad about it. It's something that we don't, no one will want to be facing, and the faces will be covered with fire. The face is the human beings, like if anything, any harm is coming, the first thing we do is we protect our face because it's so sensitive to especially fire. It's very painful. But on that day, the reality of what was lived in this world will be inescapable. So it is scary if we are the object of, if we are the subject to this, and then the solution is wake up, live accordingly. If you are not sure, then it's time to go and investigate. If it is, when it applies to the wrongdoers and the oppressors out there, then it is relieving, because otherwise it's unbearable. How unfair, how unjust, how oppressing and transgressing some people can be. But when you remember that Allahul Wahid al-Qahar, God is in control of everything, then we won't become like them. We won't react to wrongdoing with wrongdoing. We will keep up. We won't transgress the norms and the path of God. It will be easy to respond بالتي هي أحسن, to evil with what is beautiful, because what is beautiful is what will prevail in this world and in the next, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. So now we have only two verses, two ayat left in Surah Ibrahim. Next week, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, if we are still in this world, we will wrap up the whole surah. Bi'idhnihi subhanah.
Thank you, Sister Yamina. Jazakallah khair. Is there anybody who would like to make any comments or ask any questions? Sister Yamina, I have a question, but it's a totally minor question. Sorry about that. When you said every soul shall taste death, when you cited this Quranic verse, that dha'iqa, to taste, does it have a positive connotation in the sense of like being tasty, or can you taste something bad also? If you're talking, you are muted, Yamina Hocam.
Let's not get there, because there is like a GRE meaning of words and normal meaning of words. Do you see what I mean?
So even if it doesn't literally mean that, we can also think about it in the larger sense. I did relate the way you put it, in the sense that if we look at from the perspective of unawareness, then ghafla, then it is really scary and it really spoils all the taste to think about death. But then if we look from a more a conscious perspective, then death just means I'm a guest here, and each day, each moment I'm taking through this journey, and there's in that major transition into the other world, there is something tasty in there as well. So you meant in the second sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, I don't want to go into the details now, but even in English, when you said tasty, like tasting something is neutral, but something tasty is already something positive.
Okay.
Because in other places we are told you will die, that's it, finished. انت ميت وانتم ميتون or something. انت ميت. Okay, finished. You don't have to say you will taste. Not only you will taste, actually ذائقة, you are tasting, you are a taster. It's اسم فاعل.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I found striking in today's discourse, among other things, this reference to Pharaoh. He's, how he's making a case against Musa alayhi salam, by saying to the people, "Am I not better than this contemptible man who can hardly make his meaning clear?" So, Prophet Musa alayhi salam being, stuttering, he's making a case out of it. And you said, we should be careful because in everyday life too, there are these kind of almost propaganda. This is not, this person is stuttering, or not literally stuttering, but the message is not packaged in a shiny package. It's just plain. So okay, it's not as exciting as some other idea that's so well packaged. But when we look inside, what matters is the message. If the message is nonsense, even if it's like wrapped in the fancy language, it's not real. I mean, I see a bit of it in our everyday, like, popular discourse as well. Like, so many ridiculous ideas, they're packaged in such a way that if we're not careful, we think, oh yeah, this is very nice. But actually, what it is saying is, you are thrown here. For instance, you're thrown here, and everybody's going to die, and it's not. We're going to be nothing. We're going to be trash. And let's make most of our life. And you're like, this whole content is very, very meaningless. But then because it's packaged and with shiny discourse, we may be attracted to it. So it was.
And the package could be different. I mean, for academicians, it could be academic, scholarly, but for other people, it could be just because the person saying it is well known or a celebrity or something. So it can be the meaning of whatever they're saying. Or even when we are interacting on a daily level with people, how we react and respond to who they are, what their social status is, how they look, how they're dressed. Does it affect how we listen to them? That's very important, because that would mean that if the prophets came and spoke to us right now, many of us may not even give them an opportunity because of who they are. We wouldn't even listen to them. Then that's something that we need to take very seriously. Remind me of maybe not directly relevant, but we were walking in Central Park with Maha, actually. I don't know if Maha is here. And we meet this homeless woman, and she had a bag, like she was carrying a carry-on bag. And when we were going, we said hello, she said hello, we sat, and she started talking to us about Jesus and Christianity and whatever she thought was haq for her. And she was telling us, like, in her bag she had books, English books, to teach English to people who are not English speakers. She herself had an accent. She came from Colombia or somewhere. And she was telling us all the tricks of where, for her, because she was homeless, she thought probably everyone was homeless. But can you imagine, in her little world, she was giving us all the information about where to stay, where to eat, if we need anything, if we want to learn English, she can teach us for free, she can help us. Yani, subhanallah, if you were lost in New York, she wanted to help us in any way. And she's the one who is homeless. She didn't ask for any help. She was trying to, maybe she thought we were, with our scarves, we looked different to her. At the end, we looked at each other with Maha and said, like, is she a human being or an angel or what? Like, Hizr, did they say, Al-Khidr being sent in the form of a homeless person. But because she was homeless, you may not. And she said lots of beautiful things, even when she was talking about God and about the world being temporary and about getting ready for the next world. Subhanallah, we said. She spoke much more truth than many people who you would normally take more seriously. And that was for us a reminder of values and to listen to what people have rather than judge them on what they seem to be.
Thank you. Then let's stop on this note and inshallah join us next week for the final session on Surah Ibrahim, Surah 14. And in the meantime, let's remember each other in dua, in this incredible, the important life mission. We need each other's dua, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina, and Jazakumullah khair, everyone, for joining us tonight. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you.